This may not be a public announcement, but hey, those in affairs or secret relationships may want to formalize them if that's possible. And if they're quite keen on a new law limiting the list of individuals to inherit property which has taken effect. The move of the motion, Homa Bay Town Member of Parliament Peter Kaluma says the new succession law will shield partly grieving families from harassment by unofficial partners. Bridget Singana has that report.
President Uhuru Kenyatta putting ink to paper Wednesday on a bill that revolutionizes inheritance laws in the country. The Law of Succession Amendment Act now limits dependents entitled to inherit property only to the spouse and children of the deceased. This means that secret affairs and partners not recognized by law will be locked out of inheritance. Homa Bay Town MP Peter Kaluma, the sponsor of the motion, says those in secret relationships with married men must now seek recognition.
If you are a woman who is involved in a relationship and you want to inherit the property of the man you are involved with when he dies, then it is high time you moved to regularize and formalize that relationship into a marriage. If you do not do that, then now that we have this law, when the man dies, you stand to get nothing from his estate.
Section 29 of the amended succession laws defines a dependent as the spouse of the deceased and the children of the deceased, whether or not maintained by the deceased immediately prior to his death. Such of the deceased's parents, step-parents, grandparents, grandchildren, stepchildren, children whom the deceased had taken into his family as his own, and where the deceased was a woman, her husband, if he was being maintained by her immediately prior to the date of her death. The Homa Bay Town MP noting that there are loopholes in the law, like the possibility of ex-wives claiming inheritance and the burden handed to a widower to prove dependency.
That for any other person you have to prove that you are being maintained by the deceased. Now that opens some aperture there for mischievous people who would want to claim even if they are not enlisted there. So we are relying on our courts to interpret the intent of this law mischievously and to have it upheld, even as we also make a subsequent endeavor to clear all those so that those loopholes no longer occur. And we are doing this so that the family unit is protected in terms of how people relate within a family, and then the properties of the family are also protected.
The amendments actually come to define what is a marriage, what is a spouse, what is matrimonial property. There are already laws in place that make provisions for this, like the Marriage Act 2014 and the Matrimonial Property Act. So I think there'll be no major changes per se, but everything now is clearer.
In the event that the deceased has no surviving spouse or children, then surviving relatives will get an equal share of the properties registered. Opinion on this new law, however, remains divided.
Kwa vile yule mzee alitambua mwanamke wa kwanza na akatambua mwanamke wa pili, kwa nini asitambuliwe kwa mazishi? Kwa nini asitambuliwe kwa familia? Inabidi wote wawekwe kwa debe moja.
Wanaume ni wakati wetu, tunatakana tushukuru sana rais wetu ya kwamba ametuonea chinzi vile tumepata kuhangaika sisi, a boy child. Kila wakati ukijaribu kujitetea ukisema mtoto si wako unapelekwa na rieng.
Si kupenda kwa kina mama kuweza kuwa kwa mpango wa kando. Ni ile tu wamama wanaonekana ni wengi sana kuliko wanaume. So kwa wazee pia tunafaa tuangalie yao mambo.
The presidential assent to the 2021 Succession Amendment Law is probably the most talked about story this week. And while the debate is very much alive here, even at the grassroots level, Peter Kaluma, the Homa Bay Town MP, says that that law needs to be revised, some sections, to ensure that the existing gaps are sealed permanently. Bridget Singana, NTV, Nakuru.